Let me start talking about where we left. I think we already talked about this lightning record form, view form, edit form. Do you guys remember this? Anyone?
I don't.
I think I showed you guys from the library. Lightning record form, lightning. Okay, let me do it. If nobody remembers. Lightning. Okay, there are like three type of record form. Sanjay is going to mention, and we are gonna use these forms like according to the use case, and we can see them right here. Like this is the basic record form, and it is explaining all the specification and documentation here inside the Salesforce documentation. And there are one of them, you can edit the form. That's why they call it record edit form. Or if you would like to create something which user can only see, then you can create the record view form. So these three type of forms you are gonna apply while working with the use cases with Sanjay. Okay, there is something called Lightning Data Service. Lightning Data Service, it manages data for change to a record. These are reflected to like all the technologies. Data form, Apex is not managed, but you must refresh the data to see it. And Lightning Data Service does lots of work to make code perform very well. So what is it doing exactly? Like what is the job for the Lightning Data Service? It loads record data progressively, caches results on the client side, invalidate cache entries when dependent Salesforce data and metadata changes, optimize server calls by bulkifying the um, debugging, I think, results. It should be debugging. But if you ask me, can you get any question about like what is the job for the Lightning Data Service? I never heard about it, but since Sanjay just put over here, you guys can just try to say maybe two of them. But I don't think so. I never heard about any question about this.
I remember there was a question for a developer
Exam?
exam. Yes, I remember something like that. There was a question about this.
Most of the time, like the certification exam questions and interview questions, like kind of different. But still, like as I mentioned previously, these are the questions I like used from Sanjay because he's going to explain these kind of stuff. Whatever you have as an interview question here, like you might get knowledge about that while he's explaining it.
Okay.
So like when you compare these three forms, like some of them you can do some stuff, but some of them you can miss. Like these are That's why like this is just comparing these three forms to each other. So there is no custom layout for fields for the record form. But if you are gonna make it just a record view form, then you are gonna be able to. If you are creating a form which user can edit, then it is available for them. But it is so much specific question if somebody asks you, like, while you are creating the Lightning record edit form, like, can you tell me like if it is like read-only mode is available or not? This is so much specific question. I don't think you are gonna get some question like this because it is too much detail. But you will see with Sanjay. So I'm just going through. Wire service. The wire service provisions an immutable stream of data to the component. Each value in the stream is a newer version of the value that precedes it. Objects passed to a component are read-only. To mutate the data, a component should make a shallow copy of the objects it wants to mutate. Basically, like you are creating a in between your code and the component what you are creating, it is just getting some partial copy, I should say, while you are typing that code when you are creating that component. But this is just a theoretical knowledge, and I'm not really good at the LWC stuff. So I prefer Sanjay to explain you guys this kind of stuff. Since you have the all the presentation now, while he's explaining this kind of stuff, please ask the questions. For example, you are seeing the Aura components now. I want you guys to ask more and more questions. Otherwise, what's happening? Like, yes, I agree. Some stuff, like he's just copying and pasting from the library. He has to do that. But sometimes he's modifying. While he's modifying, you can ask, or like, is this the syntax we are gonna use, this kind of stuff? So you should just check with him and try to understand it. Otherwise, if you don't ask anything, if he just copy and paste and pass through the next subject, it's gonna be really hard for you guys to understand it later on. So the syntax for the wire service syntax is this, but do you need to memorize it? No. You don't need to. And it is explaining here like the identifier, adapter ID, the identifier of the wire adapter. And then here, adapter module, the identifier of the module that contains the wire adapter function in the format namespace/module name. For the adapter config, you can say the object, a configuration object specific to the wire adapter. Configuration object property values can be either strings or references to objects and fields imported from @Salesforce or /schema. Basically, you just need to know, like instead of this, you can just say object. and the syntax is ending with the property or the function. A private property or function that receives the stream of data from the wire service. If a property is decorated with wire, do you guys remember some kind of decorators from last week? Anyone?
Yes, I remember three of them. Through
Track.
wire, track, and API or public.
API.
Yeah.
API was making public.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds good. If a property is decorated with a wire, the results are returned to the property's data property or error property. If a function is decorated with wire, the results are returned in an object with a data property and an error property. I know it doesn't make sense right now, but when you try to implement these stuff, then you are gonna see. Why do we need to import the references to Salesforce objects and fields? When we use a wire adapter in a Lightning with the API module, we strongly recommend importing references to an objects and fields. Salesforce verifies that the objects and fields exist, prevents objects and fields from being deleted, and cascades any renamed objects and fields into your component's source code. It also ensures that dependent objects and fields are included in change sets and packages. This change set you are going to see on the deployment. If a component is not aware of which object is use strings instead of imported references. Use getObjectInfo, this is a method, to return the object's fields. All wire adapters in the Lightning with API modules respect object CRUD rules. Do you guys remember the CRUD? Create, read,
Update, delete.
Update, and delete. Field level security and sharing rules. If a user does not have access to a field, it is not included in the response. How to import references to Salesforce objects and fields? It is just giving a couple of examples, like import position object from Salesforce schema position __C. Import account object from Salesforce schema account. What it was saying here, it was just trying to explain it. This is with wire now. There are a couple of examples, like instead of like the whole object, if you are just taking only one field like name, import account name field from Salesforce schema account.name. So it looks like our queries, but instead of select, it is just starting with the import, and the syntax is a little bit different. If you just need the owner name from the account, you are just adding this one here, and you are attaching this one right here. How to get a current record ID in the Lightning Web Component. Create a property named as record ID and decorate with the API decorator. So one thing you need to do this, and then you should have the API decorator. Why do we use the API decorator? To make it public. In that way, we can reach it. This is the way to get the current record ID from the LWC. How can we deploy Lightning Web Components? Lightning components can be deployed like any other component using the change set. I said we are going to see on the deployment. ANT migration tool, GearSet. GearSet is one of the tools Sanjay mentioned previously. Data deployment. Yes. I'm just showing only one of them. Like, there are different ways to do the deployment. Like, if you are using the GearSet, this is a way to do the deployment. And also change set inside the Salesforce, you can use the change sets to do the deployment. But like, basically, according to like what you are looking for, you can just click and you can just deploy it to the other sandbox. This is the GearSet. This is another one, Copado and other migration tools. So you can just think about like any data, you can use the change sets to do the deployment, or GearSet or ANT. So if you get any question, is Lightning Web Component can be deployed to another sandbox? Yes, of course. With how? Like, you can just say change set, or you can say GearSet. Communicate with events in LWC. Lightning Web Components dispatch. I'm so sorry. I need to take this one. Just give me a second. All right, sorry about that. That was a call from my company. And components can also create and dispatch custom events. You can use events to communicate up the component containment hierarchy. Create and dispatch events in a component's JavaScript file. To create an event, use the custom event method as a constructor. To dispatch an event, call the event target.dispatch event method. To listen an event, use components HTML template. To handle the events, define the methods inside the components JavaScript class. Since we are going to apply all this stuff, I'm not just trying to go through the details. Use of Lightning message service to communicate between components within a single Lightning page or across multiple pages. use Lightning message service to communicate over the Lightning message channel. The adventure over PubSub module is that message channels are not restricted to a single page. Any component in a Lightning experience application that listens for events on a message channel updates when it receives a message. It works between Lightning Web Component, Aura Component, and Visualforce pages in any tab or in any pop-up window in the Lightning experience. So it was mentioned in PubSub module in the previous slide. The use of the PubSub module, it is like a container that don't support the Lightning messaging service. Then we need to use the PubSub module. In a publish-subscribe pattern, one component publishes an event, other components subscribe to receive and handle the event. Every component that subscribes to the event receives the event. The PubSub module restricts events to a single page. And this is the last one we have. So where we can use the Lightning Web Components. We can use it on the Lightning App Builder, Flows, Experience Builder, Utility Bar. We can use it on the Quick Actions, or we can use it for the Visualforce pages, or we can use it for the custom tabs. I just counted some of them, but you can see all the other stuff here. I was just trying to finish on time. It's like 3 minutes over. Thank you for your patience. I'm gonna see you guys on Sanjay's lesson, but we are gonna put a period for the interview questions lesson from today. As I explained previously, we are gonna continue with the interviews. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.